CVS and Rite Aid.
Hungary is losing hosting duties for an EU meeting.
Closing ranks, the upcoming meeting scheduled for Budapest has now been switched to Brussels. European Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell on Hungary's different approach.
Disqualifying the policy of the European Union as the party of war has to have some consequences.
Most EU leaders see Hungary as undermining their collective support for Kyiv.
That's ABC's Tom Rivers. An Iowa judge has ruled the state's strict abortion law will take effect on Monday, preventing most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. Authorities consider it a major fentanyl takedown, and a Chinese national is under arrest.
The Percocet or Adderall tablet sold on the street of your town might not be what it seems.
That pill was manufactured in Mexico using precursors that were imported from China and laced with fentanyl.
U.S. Attorney Alamdar Hamdani says 2.2 tons of the precursor chemicals were intercepted at Laredo, Texas, and traced to 48-year-old Min Su Feng, who's now been indicted and charged. Hamdani says it's one of the biggest seizures of fentanyl precursor chemicals in U.S. history. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Chicago's United Center will undergo a $7 billion plant makeover. The owner of the Bulls and the Blackhawks, which play at the center, will replace the parking lots outside with green space, mixed income housing, and a music hall. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Extermination. Hundreds of people lined the railroad crossing adjacent to the historic Brigham City Depot on Forest Street to watch Union Pacific's Big Boy 4014 roll into town with video, still cameras, and telephones in hand. Everyone was ready as the big, shiny black engine rolled in and stopped, blocking all lanes of the street. The Box Elder High School band played, and people waved flags as the train whistle blew, announcing its arrival. Jim Speth, a retired Northrop Grumman worker, was there before the engine arrived, holding small American flags to hand out for people to wave. Jeff Wimpy from Sandy followed the train from Ogden, where it stayed 2 days. He was going to go to Soda Springs, Idaho, where Big Boy 4014 was making its next stop Monday afternoon. 4014 is one of 25 built in the early 1940s and was the world's largest operating steam locomotive. It was built to haul 32,000 tons of cargo over mountains with its 7,000 horsepower engines. Big Boy's topped out at 80 miles per hour, and the monster locomotive is 132 feet long and weighs 1.2 million pounds. It was a regular fixture from Ogden to Cheyenne, Wyoming when it was running. Union Pacific retired 4014 in 1961 after over 1 million miles in service. There are 7 of them left in museums across the country. Big Boy 4014 is the only engine of its kind still in operation. It is on tour of 5 states this summer. The tour began in Roseville, California, bound for Cheyenne, Wyoming. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather, patchy smoke tonight, otherwise mostly clear, low in the mid-60s. Patchy smoke on Wednesday, sunny and hot near 100 degrees. We do have a heat advisory in effect for Wednesday, starting at noon until about 10 p.m. Wednesday night. Slight chance of showers Wednesday night, and then 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms by Thursday afternoon. High temperature in the mid-90s. Right now, it's 97 degrees at KBNU. Congratulations to Mark Gilbert, volunteer EMT in Franklin County, our latest Above and Beyond Salute winner from Firehouse Subs. A citizen nominated Mark, saying he always steps in to help when needed. They also noted how he has helped run the Franklin County Ambulance Service for 40 years. To say thanks, we gave him a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. You can submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. More news after this.
If you are like most local residents, you have a huge influx of creepy crawlers invading your home. Right now, that nasty elm seed beetle is all over northern Utah. We have a solution for you. Call Logan Extermination today for a full exterior spray. Their full exterior spray includes foundation and eaves and will kill those nasty spiders, wasps, box elder bugs, and the new nuisance, elm seed beetles. Call Logan Extermination today for details. 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Condemned killer Tabron Honey pleaded for his life during his commutation hearing, saying that he wished he could take back the murder of Claudia Ben. Honey was reacting to testimony by family members and medical experts on the first day of his commutation hearing. He acknowledged there were many things he could not remember about the day he killed Ben back in 1998. He said that he was not trying to minimize this or take away Claudia's family's pain. The hearing focused on Honey's upbringing, his substance abuse, and his troubled relationship with his girlfriend. Honey does not remember breaking into his ex-girlfriend's home in Cedar City. He said he had been drinking all day. He told the parole board he remembered a knife, but he does not remember much else. Honey was convicted of slitting Ben's throat and sexually assaulting her with a knife. Honey said he is trying to put everything on the table as he faces a lethal injection execution on August 8th. But he said he has grown and matured in prison. He is no longer abusing substances. And a court is soon expected to decide a case between hunters and landowners in Wyoming that could affect public land access across the West. When a group from Missouri went hunting near Wyoming's Elk Mountain in 2021, they navigated a checkerboard of land ownership using a ladder to cross a privately owned corner from one public parcel to another. The landowners who live in North Carolina sued the hunters for trespassing in a case now before the U.S. 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. University of Wyoming law professor Sam Kalin says there are two major issues in the case. One involves what's known as the Unlawful Enclosures Act, a federal law preventing private landowners from obstructing access to public land.
There's a good chance that the 10th Circuit's going to, maybe adopt some sort of unreasonable test, suggesting that landowners can't do things that result in sort of a nuisance or unreasonable interference with an access to public lands.
The other issue, Kalin says, is trespassing, which is a matter of state law. A Wyoming federal judge ruled the hunters were not trespassing in a decision last year. More than 8 million acres of public lands in the West are corner-locked, according to recent data. The court's decision could affect other states in the 10th Circuit, especially those with similar land-holding patterns, including Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. An appeal on this decision would go next to the U.S. Supreme Court, but Kalin says it likely would not be heard.
The court doesn't take up that many public lands cases. There's no conflict in the circuits, which means that the court would have to conclude that it's really serious national significance.
Kalin notes this case is unique to typical hunting encounters in Wyoming, as both parties are from out of state. KBNU News Time is 4:12. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
It all happens here. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. This is a story that came to us from a real customer, and I wanted to share it with you.
We came in looking for a scooter for our mother. The staff at Alpine showed us different options for scooters and battery-operated wheelchairs and helped us find one that was easy for her to handle and easy for us to get in and out of her car. They have fabulous customer service.
We love hearing about your experiences. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News, how the Democratic Party made a mess of the presidential nominating process by looking the other way when it came to Joe Biden's flaws. Also, how Donald Trump reunited a fractured Republican Party, plus how Kamala Harris would handle taxes and immigration, and why young people are choosing not to have babies. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM. Online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Jason Williams. There is a lot going on tomorrow. If you are looking for something to fill your day with, if you have the day off for Pioneer Day or Pi Day, depending on, which one you prefer to celebrate, it is kicking off in the morning with Logan City's Pioneer Day celebration. Most of it happening at Willow Park, except for the parade, which will actually go from downtown to Willow Park. And a full schedule of events you can see at loganutah.org. It is wrapping up, of course, with fireworks tomorrow night happening there at Willow Park. And a plea from fire marshals and firefighters and the governor and the Utah State Forester and everyone that if you wouldn't mind, obviously, if you're going to set fireworks off, be careful. More than 70% of the almost 600 wildfires in Utah so far, and by wildfire, we're talking anything from a small fire on the side of the road to a couple that have burned, a few 10,000s of acres, even here in northern Utah. One that was over 100,000 acres, and another on the hill there above Eagle Mountain. That was actually kind of scary. They had to put an evacuation watch in place. They never ended up evacuating, but more than 70% of the nearly 600 fires that have required fire crews' attention so far in 2024 have been human caused. So if you can skip it, it's better. Especially if you are outside of like the downtown and the more suburban areas of the city or the valley. It is so dry out there right now. And what has officials very concerned is the forecast is for, some potentially breezy conditions tomorrow afternoon and evening. And that could change and turn into an outright wind tomorrow night, and that's worst case scenario. Things this hot, this dry, so much fuel out there to burn, and then you throw a wind on top of that. That means any fire that does start, which obviously with more than 70% of the 600 fires being human caused, we know there are going to be fires that require firefighters to expend their time and put their lives on the line to fight, and that's unfortunate, but it's the way of things. Be careful. Just think it through. If you can skip it and attend Logan City's fireworks or find a nice place to watch them, just do that. We're all adults here, right? We can live without the fireworks. sparks, but it is so dry out there. The reason this is on my mind today is there was actually a fire sparked, and this was quickly extinguished by the individual behind it. But this was an employee of, a contracted lawn care company of a business here in Cache Valley. I won't name them because it was no one's fault. It was an accident. But a contracted lawn care company, while driving their riding lawnmower from the lawn they had just mowed to the trailer to load it up and take it on to the next contracted location, clipped a rock. And this happened to be near some very dry grass on the edge of the road where the sprinkler system wasn't hitting. And clipped that rock. The rock bounced into the grass. They loaded the lawnmower onto the truck, turned around, and there was a fire. That quick. This was just this afternoon. Now, luckily, it was literally just a couple of little puffs of smoke and a flame, and they were able to stomp it out and then got a nearby hose and soaked the living daylights out of the ground around that. But it's a good reminder. That's all it took. That lawnmower clipping a rock, that spark from the rock while the lawnmower was over some very dry grass. By the time that they had that thing up the ramp and onto the trailer, behind them there was a fire. That's not a situation that is likely going to, become a huge necessary response and burn houses and property and put lives at risk. But just a good reminder that it is that dry out there. Just one little rock from the lawnmower while driving over one little spark from the lawnmower hitting a rock, driving over some dry grass, and there was a fire. Now imagine that out in the unincorporated areas of the county where the grass is 2 feet high, and then you've got a nice breeze blowing that fire up the hillside into the canyon. Real situation on our hands at that point. Lives will be put at risk, both firefighters' lives, but also anyone up in the canyons, and there are a lot of people up there now. I'm not trying to be cryptic. I'm just saying if you don't have to, everything we can do to reduce the odds of a wildfire at this point, I think would be extremely helpful. So, again, Logan City hosting their Pioneer Day celebration tomorrow, starting at 7:30 a.m. with the Lions Club Pancake Breakfast. There's the Pioneer Day parade from Center Street to 5th West, and then heading south on 5th West to Willow Park. Volleyball tournaments, 3-on-3 basketball, and 3-on-3 soccer tournaments all throughout the day. They've set up, I drove past, I saw them setting this up. Now there are horseshoe competition locations. There's going to be a big cornhole tournament that people have already almost broken down the doors signing up for. Zumba classes, food and craft booths throughout the day. And then I'm not sure what this is, but Logan City has found someone with a candy cannon. And then there are Pioneer-themed crafts and games similar to previous years. They have some live entertainment and fireworks planned for after dark. And you can see that full schedule at PR for Parks and Rec, pr.loganutah.org. North Logan is also holding a Pioneer Day celebration in conjunction with this, starting around the same time. Most activities take place at Elk Ridge Park in North Logan. That's 7 a.m. To 9 a.m. for the Lions Building breakfast. Then there's the charity fun run right after that. They have a pickleball tournament happening. There's a fishing contest taking place at the King Nature Park at the mouth of Green Canyon. And then the parade starting at 1600 East, 19th North, and heading north on 1600 East. We'll wrap up on 2100 North and then back down to 12th East and finish again at Elk Ridge Park. They've got booths and food and games. They've hired a carnival game company to come. They're set up there now at Elk Ridge Park. Bounce castles, all of this free of charge, of course. There's a charity barbecue, a massive bingo game. Last year, I think they said something like 75 people participated. And then they'll wrap up with a movie in the park, Super Mario Brothers, at the south end of Elk Ridge Park. And then the fireworks close everything out at dark around 10 p.m. So you'll have competing fireworks shows from Logan and North Logan at about the same time. And if you decide to reduce the risk of wildfire by foregoing the fireworks in your own driveway, especially if you're out in some of the outskirts around the edges of the valley, check out these fireworks instead. They're done by professionals. They have the skills to know when to call it off if conditions change and become dangerous. And it's free as long as you find a good spot to watch them from, which I won't give it away. But people out in Mendon know where to go. We'll put it that way, and see them all. So there you have it, the full lineup for tomorrow. On the other side, you heard a bit about this on the news, but this 10th Circuit Court expected to have a ruling on this public lands access challenge that has been, it's had the eye of Utah lawmakers. Just about every state lawmaker in the West has been watching this one. It's an issue of public access versus private property owners' rights to that private property. And it's a thorny issue, similar to one that bubbled up here in the state of Utah over stream bed access for fishermen in what is considered public land, the waterways, and the banks considered private land in a lot of locations. How does that work? This case is similar. We'll talk about what the ramifications are and what a few lawmakers had to say today as the 10th Circuit is expected to rule in the coming days. Potentially huge ramifications from this. We'll talk about it right after this.
Hi, this is Chris Wilson of Wilson Motor Company. It's the final days of our 81st anniversary sales event. We have reduced prices on over 300 Ford, Lincoln, Nissan, and pre-owned vehicles, including over 40 F-150s in stock and coming. We have rebates as high as $7,500 and interest rates as low as 0% for 60 months. Check out our inventory online before July 31st at wilsonmotor.com.
Wilson Motor Company, we make car buying easy. Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
You do amazing things every day. And we're not just talking about your pregnancy. You do it all. So why risk letting COVID-19 stop you? COVID-19 vaccines are especially important during pregnancy. Take control of your health so you can keep showing up for the ones you love. Get the COVID-19 vaccine to protect yourself and your pregnancy. It's safe, proven, effective. You could say it's pretty amazing, just like you. Message brought to you by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Visit acog.org/COVID vaccine to learn more.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Bill mentioned this in the news break at the top of the hour, and you'll hear more about it in the coming days. It's expected sometime this week, maybe even, the 10th Circuit will be out with its decision on a public lands access case that has the attention of state legislatures in Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, throughout the West. They're even paying attention to this one in California and Oregon, where they have a lot of public lands as well. Public lands aren't unique to Western states, but they are, in Western states, a far larger percentage of the total acreage within a state's borders than they are for most Eastern states or even a lot of Midwestern states. Part of that is, the geography and the fact that there are large swaths of the American West that are never going to be great places for a city or a subdivision, right? So also in many statehood agreements, incorporation into the United States, many states agreed to cede control of large swaths of public lands to the federal government. That was part of the exchange for joining the union, if you will. And that's led to a lot of different legal battles over the years. But This one is, and a lot of those legal battles have purely been, ideological battles, political battles, which I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that it that is what it is, and they tend to go how they go because there is, a history behind the court precedents on public lands management that literally dates back to the formation of our country, and no court yet has been willing to topple that apple cart. In fact, the Supreme Court rarely hears public lands cases because of that very precedent. There's little gray area for the lower courts to rule on these types of things. This one's a little different. I'm not saying this will go to the Supreme Court on appeal should the 10th Circuit, decide and that decision be unfavorable to one of the two parties in this, but the reason this case is different, well, there's two noteworthy things to me about this case. One, and I think this is a broader conversation we could have one day about the future of the American West at large. But in this case, both people involved, both the private landowner and the hunters that were sued for accessing public land through private land, basically, are not from Wyoming. So you have this lawsuit that could decide the future of public lands management in Wyoming and throughout the American West that was brought by two parties that aren't even in Wyoming. That's noteworthy to me because I think that says something about where we're at in the American West. And this is a huge issue in Montana right now. In fact, there's a growing movement, kind of a protectionist, maybe even xenophobic movement bubbling up in Montana that has, I don't know, for all intents and purposes, I'm usually opposed to anything xenophobic because it's based on, a phobia, an irrational fear. But I kind of get some of that in Montana because they are seeing a lot of their, Montana land is being purchased by wealthy millionaires and billionaires from other parts of the country and even the world. And they're buying this land and they're turning it into money-making resorts, and it's changing Montana at a very rapid pace. This isn't a uniquely U.S. thing as well. This is happening in Iceland right now. There's a growing movement, a protectionist movement, if you will, in Iceland against, tourism is really picking up in Iceland, and it's boosting the economy. But that also means that if you visit Iceland, you're going to see nothing but cranes in downtown Reykjavik, the only large city on the island of about, I think, 300,000 people-ish, permanent residents there. But then another 100,000 every summer, tourists come through, and it's making people unhappy. They're seeing their island change. Well, the same thing's happening in Montana. We're seeing this also in parts of Utah. Not as prominent in Utah, I think, as in places like Montana, but still, it's happening. And that's kind of what's behind this case as well, because we're going to see a lot more of this type of tourism. And we want that. Our state leaders want that. It's money. It's economic activity, right? It's revenue. Not a bad thing. But at the same time, these issues are going to keep bubbling up again and again. So what is the issue here? This is basically an issue of lands access, public lands access. What happened is a group of hunters on and we can have a whole other conversation about these types of hunting trips too. Personally, I think they're cheating. I don't think it counts if you fly somewhere and go to a fenced area where the wildlife that you hunt has been trucked in and fed and made comfy so they're not acting quite the way they do in the wild, and then you step out of a truck and shoot them. I don't call that hunting. I feel the same way about those African safaris. You go down there, step out of a Jeep and shoot a zebra. You're not a hunter. You're just a guy who shot a gun and killed a zebra. There's no challenge to that whatsoever. I would argue deer hunting in Logan Canyon is more difficult than many of those African safaris. And shooting an elephant, they don't even run. Where's the challenge? Anyway, totally a different topic for another day. But that is what happened here. You had this group of people who are not from Wyoming. They're from Missouri. They came to Wyoming for Wyoming's Elk Mountain hunt, they call it. And that's where it takes place as well. They were hunting near Elk Mountain. This was back in 2021. And basically, to get to where they needed to go, they crisscrossed privately owned corners. In public lands management, this is called corner locked. A lot of public land in Utah, in Wyoming, in Idaho, in New Mexico, Colorado is corner locked. And that means it's public land, which means every American has the right to recreate on that land within the guidelines established. But a lot of times there's no way to get there conveniently, by car or truck at least, without crossing public land in some way. Sometimes even if you're on foot hiking, there are certain hiking trails in the Wind Rivers Range, for example, in which there are posted signs as you're heading up and back that you're passing from public land to private land. Now, in that case, the landowners have agreed to it, and there are certain rules that you have to follow when you're on the private land, similar to the public land, sometimes a little more strict even, but you're able to go through. In this case, though, what happened is this privately owned corner of this one public parcel. So you have this public land the hunters were headed to, but they travel through this corner of public land, the only way to get to or private land. And the landowners, who are not from Wyoming also, they're from North Carolina, sued the hunters, who are not from Wyoming, they're from Missouri, for trespassing. And, of course, the hunters objected because they were trying to access public land. And so the case has moved up through the courts. It finally got to the U.S. 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and a ruling from the 10th Circuit is expected sometime this week. As you heard Bill play in the news break there, University of Wyoming law professor Sam Kalin weighed in on this and said there's a good chance the 10th Circuit is going to go, you know what, maybe adopt some sort of unreasonable test suggesting that landowners can't do certain things that result in a sort of nuisance or unreasonable interference with access to public lands. That, of course, is going to meet with objections, and the only next step is up to the Supreme Court, who, again, rarely takes public lands cases because it's considered basically decided by precedent dating back to the first year the United States existed. Kalin doesn't predict that. He said the Supreme Court won't take up. He doesn't predict they'll take up any public lands cases because they never do. There's no conflict in the courts, he said, which means that the court would have to conclude for some reason there's some serious conflict the higher court needs to resolve, and that is not the case when public lands. It is the precedent is very clear. The problem is this: the precedent doesn't cover everything. We saw this bubble up here in Utah. Remember years ago, our own Representative Kurt Webb was embroiled in the middle of this, trying to solve a problem with, I think, what was a very reasonable solution. But he got opposition from all sides, and it all had to do with stream bed access. The private landowners saying, we're sick of fishermen coming through and, walking up the bank, which is our property, in order to fish the river. And the fishermen coming back and saying, well, if the private landowner hadn't strung a barbed wire fence across the river, which belongs to everyone, that's very decided. There's no disagreement on that. The waterways and the water are yours, everyone's. And so they can't stop you from walking down the river. But if you need to get out to go around an obstacle, a fallen tree, or in the case that was bubbled up here in Utah, a fence that was intentionally placed there by the landowner, well, you got to go out sometimes on private land. That's trespassing. The controversy here in Utah is when the legislature passed a bill that said, look, I can't remember how it was worded, but it basically said reasonable access. So basically, if someone has to get out to go around some fence posts or an obstruction in the river, private landowners can't stop that. That was a huge deal, and it ended up in court. And so my point is people take this very seriously, but there has to be a compromise. There has to be. Private landowners have rights to protect their private property. I know I would want to. But at the same time, if your private land butts up against public lands and there's no other reasonable access point for people to recreate on those public lands, an American right, enshrined in the state constitution, by the way, here in Utah, you have to let them through. There's got to be a way to resolve this one. And It feels like the court rulings aren't doing it. Watch this one, though. That ruling expected sometime this week, maybe as late as early next, but I would guess this week. And potential powder keg here. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People and a very special guest joining us to talk about the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center's August open house. Dwight Whittaker joining us after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News brought to you by Roof Rescue. Family members of a woman killed in a 1998 murder are pressing Utah officials to carry on with the perpetrator's scheduled August 8th execution. Relatives of Claudia Ben offered emotional testimony about the crime today. They said it still traumatizes their close-knit Native American community. Inmate Tabron Dave Honey testified Monday that he was not in his right mind when he killed his girlfriend's mother a day after heavy drinking and drug use. He asked the 5-member parole board to commute his sentence to life in prison. A surprise eruption of steam, water, and dark-colored rock and dirt that shot dozens of feet into the sky sent people running for safety in Yellowstone National Park. The hydrothermal explosion happened this morning in Biscuit Basin, a group of hot springs a couple miles north of Old Faithful Geyser. Video posted online shows a couple dozen people watching from a boardwalk as the eruption sprayed and grew in front of them. They ran to get clear as water and debris began to fall. The eruption damaged the boardwalk, but no injuries were reported. The basin is closed for visitor safety. KVNU weather, a heat advisory in effect on Wednesday from noon until 10 p.m. for the Cache Valley and also areas along the Wasatch Front, Great Salt Lake Desert and mountains. Hot temperatures from 100 to 104 degrees, quite possible, actually probable tomorrow. For tonight in the Cache Valley, smoky conditions continue. Otherwise, mostly clear, low in the mid-60s, sunny and hot, highs around 100 on Wednesday. There is a slight chance of showers after midnight Wednesday night, and then a 30% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms on Thursday, high temperature near 95. KVNU weather brought to you by Logan Extermination. If bugs are taking over the outside of your home and coming inside, you need the help that Logan Extermination can give. Call 752-8450. Get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. Vice President Harris is now the Democratic Party's presumptive nominee for president, and she campaigned today in the battleground state of Wisconsin.
This campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. This campaign is about who we fight for.
The DNC says it will hold a virtual roll call vote the first week of August. President Biden will address the nation tomorrow night on his decision to drop out of the race. Acting Secret Service Director Ron Rowe says he'll do all he can to restore Americans' faith and trust in the agency. The deputy director will succeed Kimberly Cheadle, who resigned in the wake of the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Sources tell ABC News the Secret Service is urging the Trump campaign to stop holding outdoor rallies. This is ABC News.
Roof Rescue is your local roof specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
This is Branch Office Administrator Brittany Chambers bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Financial Advisor Daryl Arnell and Edward Jones. The spotlight swings brightly to earnings results this week. Second quarter announcements are off to a fairly strong start, which began with the big banks largely beating expectations. Tuesday announcements from General Motors and UPS kicked things off with GM delivering better than expected profits while UPS came up short of consensus estimates. The latter can provide some signals of consumer activity, and while quarterly figures came in light, shipping volume growth did pick up in the U.S., consistent with recent data showing household spending is not drying up. The headliners, however, will be Alphabet, Google, and Tesla, which will report after the market close on Tuesday afternoon. As has been the case over the last several quarters, big tech earnings are likely to set the tone for markets through this earnings season. Overall, consensus expectations are for nearly 10% earnings growth for the second quarter, a healthy pace that, if maintained in incoming quarters, would provide validation for the market's rally so far this year, as well as support for equity market performance over the remainder of 2024. Today, U.S. equities closed lower. The Dow closed down 57 points, or 0.14%, at 40,358. The Nasdaq closed down 10 points, or 0.06%, at 17,997. The S&P 500 closed down 9 points, or 0.16%, at 5,556. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4.25%. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot is down $3.63 to $359.62. Nucor is down $1.79 to $161.55. Thermo Fisher is up $5.82 to $552.24. Zions Bank is up $3.05 to $52.53, and Northrop Grumman is up $4.20 to $442.30. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil is down $1.06 at $77.34, and the spot price of gold was up $14.20 to $2,408.90. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Daryl Arnell, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you would like additional information, daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams, and we're going to jump right back in with a very special guest joining us now by phone to talk about an upcoming event planned for August 1st to support the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center. Cache Valley Humanitarian Center was launched a few years ago, 2021, by Logan's two Rotary clubs, the Cache Valley Morning Club and the Logan Noon Club. They started out with a small grant from the Governor's Collaborative Grant Program, and since then, they've been able to do some pretty big things, from back-to-school kits for families in need to hygiene kits, sleeping mats for the homeless throughout northern Utah. They've made recycled grocery bags made from recycled grocery bags, so kind of two birds there with those sleeping mats. They have also done coat and quilt drives, winter wear drives, and supported a book drive for more than 500 Spanish language books and 500 general interest books to establish a Navajo community library here in Cache Valley. It's amazing stuff, and they're really filling a need not already covered by some of our other great nonprofit organizations here in the Valley. So joining us now to talk about an upcoming event they have where they're inviting the entire Valley, all of northern Utah actually, to an open house to get to know everyone involved with the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center. We have with us now co-founder of the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center, Dwight Whittaker, joining us. And Dwight, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. How did I do on kind of explaining a quick overview of what the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center is all about?
Well, thank you, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. We were listening to the music, and it was hard to hear you. So,
sorry about that.
I'm assuming that you did just a great job. So, thank you for that.
That's fine. You didn't miss a thing.
Oh, well,
no,
I'm sure we did. We did.
I just explained this stemming from both of the Rotary clubs working together with a small grant, and since then it's ballooned into coat drives, backpack drives, setting up the Navajo Community Library. Just some really amazing stuff operating in just since 2021, right?
That's correct. We've just finished our third year, and we're grateful for the initial startup grant that we received from Rotary, 2 Rotary clubs here in Logan. And since then, the Logan City School District allowed us a place to begin assembling all these items. And our 2 main functions have been basically, first of all, we wanted to be community-centered. So we have a board of directors representing all of Cache Valley.
Okay.
And our definition of Cache Valley is Wellsville to Preston.
Sure.
And second point, other than being community-centered, was to be needs-based. We didn't want to be doing anything that people didn't need. So we've networked with the 3 school districts, so Logan City, Cache County School District, and Preston School District, and then about 30 other nonprofit organizations in Cache Valley. And the first thing that was identified as a need was back-to-school kits. So
Sure.
that got us started making kits, and then the next need was hygiene kits, and then a coat and quilt drive during the winter months, and then one thing led to another. Now one of our major focuses is making sleeping mats for the homeless out of recycled grocery bags.
That is so cool. I said in the setup there, kind of 2 birds with that one, right? The grocery bags aren't going to the landfill, and instead of going to landfill, they're going to a very good purpose.
Yes, there's probably over 80,000 grocery bags that have ended up in sleeping mats and not in the landfill.
That's nice.
Takes over 600 grocery bags to make a mat and a pillow that's attached to the sleeping mat, and it takes right at 30 hours of direct labor.
Wow.
If a person were to start from the beginning, flattening the bags, cutting, and then ultimately weaving, and then crocheting the edges so they didn't unwind, and then attaching a carrying strap to them so if people could take them with them as they move on.
Sure.
It would take about 30 hours to do all of that.
Wow.
So our volunteers are so important to us, and they have been very dedicated and continue to come in. They've provided, in our 3-year period, there's been over 2,000 volunteers who have given over 24,000 hours of service to these various projects.
Now that's amazing. That is, and we should mention that the Humanitarian Center depends entirely on that community support, not just volunteers, but also community support through donations and more to do this work. And that's why y'all have decided to invite everybody in Northern Utah out, Thursday, August 1st, right, to an open house?
That is correct. Thursday, August 1st from 2 to 7 p.m. We are currently located at 595 South Riverwoods Parkway in room 130, which is in the Wasatch office building. And because of the kindness of Conservice, who had some extra space, we have been able to move from the initial, it was basically a portable classroom at Mount Logan Middle School, then into the old seminary building at Mount Logan Middle School, and now we're in about 4,600 square feet as a result of the kindness of Conservice in the Wasatch office building. And we're there until the end of December 31st. After that, we will probably have to find another location, but we wanted to give the opportunity for the community to see what we're doing and we finally have enough room that people can come in and walk around and see what we're doing.
Sure. And this is planned to be, of a celebratory nature with refreshments. And you've got, as I understand it, members of the USU football, basketball, soccer, and volleyball teams will be showing up to kind of help people get to know what the Humanitarian Center is all about. That alone's a reason to go out, right?
Right. Well,
how did you manage that?
The athletic teams, for example, last September, a year ago, this coming September, the USU basketball team came in and volunteered, and we always say that's why they did so well, was because they worked together as a team as volunteers and gelled together throughout the basketball season.
That makes sense.
We also had the women's soccer team come in earlier in the fall, and so we will have. They will actually be doing the weaving on the looms and flattening bags. So they're going to be part of the volunteer process.
Wow.
On this Thursday.
That is very cool.
We're grateful for their willingness to do that.
It's great to see them get involved in that way, and a great opportunity for the public to get out and meet some of these folks as well. Members of the USU football team, the basketball team, soccer team, volleyball teams will be joining everyone at August 1st, 4 to 7 p.m. For the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center's Community Open House event. As Dwight mentioned, 595 South River Parkway is where they're currently located in the suite there. And this is, Dwight, if there's someone out there listening now that maybe has a location to offer, are you looking for that, or do you think you have something lined up if you have to move?
Yes, we don't have anything lined up right now. We're looking, our minimum space is probably going to be about 5,000 square feet right now.
Okay.
Especially since the Hiram Humanitarian Center closed down about 3 months ago, we've been trying to pick up their key items they were making were quilts and also newborn kits. For those individuals that were involved in the WIC program, which is the Women, Infant, and Children's program for poverty level low income. And as a result of that, we've had to have more space because of the quilting looms and the cutting tables, and we have like 7 sewing machines and sergers. Wow. So we're minimum right now is about 5,000 square feet. But yeah, we certainly could use any leads or ideas on how we could get reestablished after December 31st.
Absolutely. If someone out there listening now has a tip or even a location they'd like to offer up for the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center, please get in touch with them. You can find them, by the way, at CacheValleyHumanitarianCenter.com. There's contact information there, some great photos of volunteers of everyone from around the valley, from the family place to CAPSA, but also community members showing up to help put these back-to-school kits together for families in need, these hygiene kits, making the homeless sleeping mats from recycled grocery bags. Supporting homeless people in Cache Valley in general is on everyone's minds because we do have an issue with that here in Cache Valley, and many of the homeless people in the valley are families who have been, for one reason or another, caught between homes, and they need some help. And Dwight, I have to ask about this because this is such a unique thing, but through volunteer work and the leadership of all of you there at the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center, you launched the first Navajo Community Library here in northern Utah. How did that idea come to be?
Well, it's actually in southern.
I'm sorry. Yes, in southern Utah.
Southern Utah, and actually that was a little project that we helped with through the Rotarians.
That is amazing.
Statewide Rotary, but we were able to donate I can't remember, several hundred books for their library, and so that was a nice experience. You bet.
What an effort to be a part of. And I was shocked to learn one of those didn't exist already in Utah, but happy that a Cache Valley organization could play a part in making it happen there for the Navajo community in southeastern Utah. As you can see, the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center is busy. They've got a lot going on. If you'd like to inquire about volunteering, making a direct donation through their website or what have you, CacheValleyHumanitarianCenter.com. But again, we're speaking here today with Dwight Whittaker, a co-founder of the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center, about their upcoming invitation to everyone in Cache Valley and northern Utah at large. If you're listening from Box Elder along the Wasatch Front, you're invited as well to come to their open house August 1st, 4 to 7 p.m., that get to know the people behind the Humanitarian Center, the work they do, but also a chance to meet with other volunteers, including members of the USU football team, basketball teams, soccer and volleyball teams, and other special guests. And this is for everyone. Some are citizens that are here temporarily for the summer, business owners, government leaders. The Humanitarian Center wants everyone to come out and see what they're all about and see if there are ways that everyone can work together to support each other. Dwight, I have to mention this. I think it's great that the Humanitarian Center reached out to other existing nonprofits and said, hey, we don't want to reinvent wheels here. Let's find out where the need is. And I assume that communication is ongoing.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We at least monthly or so, we try to reach out and find out what the needs are in the community. And so we're kind of a wholesaler, if you will, wholesale broker.
Sure. It's a good word.
Put things together, and then we distribute to the various agencies. They, in turn, vet those who are in need, and then they distribute directly to the person who is in need.
That is
so
amazing.
we provide the resources and let them take care of helping the people that they're working with. And just to mention a little bit, people are surprised that we're so involved with the homeless project, but we have an order right now for 60 of these sleeping mats for this coming fall, and over 200 individuals have been identified in Cache Valley that are homeless. And last year, Cache County School District identified over 98 students who are homeless in the district.
Really?
So it is a problem, and we're happy to help out in some small way.
It really puts that in perspective. Dwight Whittaker, again, has been our guest, co-founder of the Cache Valley Humanitarian Center, hosting an open house August 1st. Details at our Facebook page or visit the website, CacheValleyHumanitarianCenter.com. Dwight, thanks to you for your time. To our